my God.
Yeah, it's a football game happened. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Jack Veltri. We are at the scene of the crime, a scene of many crimes, a lot of felonious behavior in a football sense. Ole Miss 27, South Carolina 3. It felt like the Murphy's Law game, Jack Veltri. Anything that could go wrong offensively for South Carolina most certainly did. And it started really from the get-go with the fake punt attempt where, the up back gets the ball and runs into a brick wall at the line of scrimmage. Robbie Ashford then on the next possession, on one of his very few snaps in the game, fumbles. Ole Miss gets the ball. And look, Ole Miss got in the red zone 4 times, scored every single time, and scored touchdowns, and you were able to only muster 1 field goal the entire game. A lot of stuff happened here, and we'll break down a little bit of it, but I don't know if tonight could have been worse for a South Carolina team coming off of a bye week, going into a game at Alabama next week, and trying to get any type of momentum after a tough loss against LSU and a big win against Akron.
Yeah, this was about as bad as things could have gone for South Carolina. And look, the score is only a 24-point loss, but it probably could have been worse. And for South Carolina, look, you came into this week, I think, with very high expectations. I know they're never going to admit it, but I'm sure deep down, Ole Miss losing to Kentucky was probably the worst thing to happen for South Carolina, because I feel like, you could do whatever you want, but deep down it's like, okay, we see the weaknesses. We can go out there and beat this team. And look, transitive property is useless, but in a game like this,
correct,
you probably do feel like, okay, we beat Kentucky as bad as we did. Maybe it's the same deal this week, but of course it really wasn't. And right from the jump with that fake punt, look, Shane Beamer did say he felt good about the decision to do it, but obviously now looking back at it, he wants to take that call back. Just really, as soon as you didn't get it and Ole Miss scored, you dug yourself a hole, and it only got worse from there. And now you're left answering questions at 3-2 about where this football team goes, because the month of October only gets harder from here.
My biggest gripe with the fake punt isn't necessarily going for it on 4th down on your own 36. Yeah. Is it risky? Absolutely. But if I'm going for it on my own 36, I know he said he repped the play a lot over the summer since August, but I want the ball in the hands of one of my 2 running quarterbacks who have been phenomenal.
Leave your offense on the field. Yeah. As soon as you ran it on 3rd and 6 and you picked up 5 yards, and then you decide to pull your offense off the field, I felt like it was the most obvious decision, because you were weighing it out, and then you eventually decide how you're punting you're doing on the field. I get it. Maybe I would have done something like that maybe later in the game if the opportunity presented itself. But on the first drive of the game, I don't understand it. And look, if you have issues with Lenore Sellers' health at all, that maybe he gets hurt or something on the play, if you're even worried about that, put Robbie Ashford in the game. Yeah, if Ole Miss knows a run's coming, at least you have a guy like Ashford who's 100%, and he can just lay his body on the line and go over the top. It doesn't even have to be him. Just feed the ball to a running back, or heck, run a pass play. There's so many different options you could have done right there, and you picked the worst one, in my opinion. Just inexcusable, and stuff like that cannot be happening.
Yeah, it was a really tough look, and I know he regrets it now, and hindsight's 20/20, but that led to an Ole Miss touchdown. And the fumble also led to an Ole Miss touchdown. That was 2 drives where Ole Miss did not have to travel more than 60 yards to be able to score the first 2 scores of the game. And despite what I thought was a really good defensive performance for the most part, you dug yourself a 2-touchdown hole that your offense wasn't prepared to get out of. And ultimately, I think that's where South Carolina lost the plot tonight. Was offensively, you were able to pick up yards, especially in the second half, but you threw an interception in the red zone late. You missed a field goal. You weren't able to really connect on 3rd down. And there was a lot of times, Jack, where Norris would break the pocket, break contain, and he'd have his eyes downfield, and receivers weren't getting open. And it looked like Norris at times was indecisive and didn't know what to do. And by the time he made a decision to run, it was only a 1 or 2 yard gain or a loss or a sack. Or if he did try to throw it, it's incomplete because nobody's really open. I think this was an abject failure of the passing game. This might be the worst in the passing game has looked all year long, and that even includes the Old Dominion game. There was no cohesion. I don't think the receivers got a lot of separation. Norris didn't get a lot of help. I don't think Norris played very well, but he didn't get a lot of help. And most importantly, pass protection regressed to looking like something that you saw last year, when obviously the whole tale of the 2023 season was ineptitude at the offensive line.
Oh, they can say whatever they want, that they thought the offense was good today, and they were proud of the effort and stuff. But we have two eyes. I mean, all of us here and the fans saw that you only put 3 points up on the board.
Yeah.
And look, there were times where South Carolina moved the ball offensively, but you only put up 3 points. The lack of converting on third down was abysmal. Receivers not getting open was a really big issue. Your blocking was awful today. I think you gave up 6 sacks. And look, some of them are on the offensive line. Some of them are on blocking in general with the tight ends and stuff and the running backs. Some of them are on the receivers not getting open. It's everyone's fault on these sacks. It's not just one person or one group. It's everything. And look, there were a lot of times where the pocket collapsed and Sellers ran. It's because receivers aren't getting open. There's just so many issues with this offense, and I'll say this a million times over the next few days. You had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. 2 weeks. It's different if it's a quick turnaround. You lost this game. It's like, okay. All right, Ole Miss just came out here ready to go. But Ole Miss was coming off a loss, one of the worst in program history, to a Kentucky team that you beat by 25 points, and you had 2 weeks to prepare. And you came out and I'm going to just say, you laid an egg.
Yeah, and offensively, you laid a massive egg.
And look, some people might feel some type of way about that, and I'm being just blunt about it, but it's so true. You had a golden opportunity to go out here and win a big game, and you honestly, like Elijah said, you really did regress in this game, and it's a shame because I thought the defense actually did some pretty good things today, but you couldn't get the big plays that you needed to in certain offensive spots.
Look, this is an Ole Miss team that gets a lot of explosives. Sure, they got a couple of explosives in the pass play, in the passing game, but you almost had to kind of figure that was going to happen because this Ole Miss team still is really good. The loss to Kentucky aside, this is still a team that has legitimate college football playoff aspirations with an offense that's got as many weapons as anybody in college football, not just the SEC. And you limited some of that. You held them to some field goals. And if you told me coming into this game, say, Elijah, Ole Miss is going to score 27 points, I'm going to say I like your chances to really contend. I thought Ole Miss would score 30. My prediction was Ole Miss 30, South Carolina 23. I thought, oh, well, if you hold them to 27, you're in a chance
you have a
game.
great chance to win this game. The fact that, again, it's not the defense that was at fault here. Sure, were there some plays the defense probably wants back? Of course.
Penalties especially. The offsides.
The penalties.
The Dylan Stewart handgun.
I don't understand why you're doing that. You're down. First off, you're down by, 20 points at that point?
Yeah.
I'm cool with celebrations and all that stuff. And honestly, it seems to be a big trend in college football where a lot of guys are doing the handgun things and then they're getting penalized. This isn't the first time it's happened, and it was the silliest penalty in the game for South Carolina. Look, they've had a lot of penalties this year, and just for whatever reason, it's the same thing over and over again. It's rinse and repeat. It's, we're going to get better from the penalties. But then you have 8 again, and then it's 8 more the next week, and we're trying to get better. And it's more penalties each week. When does the cycle end of just actually doing something about the penalties instead of letting them continue to happen? You know what I mean?
And there's too many veteran players on this team to do that. I know Dylan Stewart is a 19-year-old. I remember in the press box whenever that penalty happened, I thought this is the result of being a 19-year-old, getting a sack in a game.
It happens.
It's just dumb.
It's a silly mistake.
Yeah, and you have to know. Do I hate the taunting rule? Yes, I hate it with the fiery passion of 1,000 suns.
But you can't do it, man.
But and the point.
You were right over Dart. You were right over Dart and looking down at him and doing it. It's like it's like having a sign on your back saying, "Hey, ref, please throw a flag on me." Come on, man. It is what it is. You move on from it. You're going to learn.
And he made an incredible play, too.
But come on. You had such a good game, and that one thing is just it's frustrating for South Carolina.
Yeah, and that was that was a microcosm of this game. You make a great play, a penalty negates it. You make a great drive to get into the red zone down this way, and you throw an interception in double coverage. And there's so many things offensively where you showed some glimpses. But over the course of a 60-minute game, it was nowhere remotely close to enough to be able to win and help your defense out. I thought, again, even with a lot of the the offside penalties and a lot of the mistakes made defensively, the defense played more than well enough to keep you in this game and to win this game. And the fact that you scored only 3 points is a big disappointment, especially off that bye week, like you mentioned.
It's concerning. I had been so high. I think a lot of people can agree with this. I thought the offense had been making big strides each week. Since that Old Dominion game, things had really been looking up. And look, I know it's Akron a few weeks ago, But even before that, like, you played your best first half against LSU all season.
Yeah.
And then to have this type of game, and look, credit to Ole Miss's defense, because they did a heck of a job.
They made plays.
Swarming the quarterback and really limiting any receivers from making big plays. But, like, it's like 3 points. You had your opportunities in deep down in the red zone. You just couldn't get it done. And, again, it comes back to the issue we've talked about all year long. I feel like there's a lot of issues this team has had all year long. They continue to talk about we need to be better. 3rd and 4th down, man. It's not good enough. It's setting this team back tremendously.
It's not going to get any easier because you got to go on the road to play Alabama and Tuscaloosa next week.
Off Alabama team.
One that just got beat by Vanderbilt. So if you don't believe in miracles, my brothers and sisters in Christ, you might as well go ahead and start subscribing to that theory now, because Vanderbilt is a 23.5-point underdog, knocked off Alabama in Nashville tonight. So Alabama's going to be looking for blood the same way this Ole Miss team came into your house at Williams-Brice Stadium and not only looked for blood, but purchased it, or might as well stole it. 27-3, Ole Miss wins. A long road ahead, a tough week of preparation going into the Alabama game. We'll be talking about it all week on 107.5 The Game, starting with the early game with Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, leading all the way up into the afternoon, the post-game show with myself and Jay Phillips, and Jack Veltri is going to be on with Tyler Head from 9 to 10 every day talking about it as well. We'll start taking your calls, your texts, your tweets, all of that starting Monday. There's a lot more to get into. This 11.5 minutes won't cover everything, so make sure to stay locked in at 107.5 The Game or on The Game TV. We'll talk to you then. We'll vent. We'll listen. It's going to be a long week ahead, but the sun will come up tomorrow, and we'll see you next week in Tuscaloosa.